All right, so we go to Oregon again. We got a new report. Democrat-led Oregon is on track to spend $500 million more for a healthcare program that includes funding for illegals. They're going to spend $500 million more on that than they are on the state police. State police. State police. More on illegals, bunch of healthcare funding, than going after the criminals. What's this look like? Let's get into it. Here we go. Here's about a week-old testimony in front of the Portland City Council. This is what business owners are talking about in Portland. I want you to pay attention. We're going to watch this it's almost a 4-minute video. We're going to watch just a minute and a half clip because the two people within this clip, they both say something that you're like, okay, here we go. Let's listen. Let's watch.
And I have to be honest, I have never felt so unsafe in this city. A few months ago at our bar, there's a group of people that will descend. We have to shut down all the time. 45 people. 2 women in the group started breaking glass in our bar, stabbing each other. Our bartender called us. We pulled up the security cameras live. She was screaming. Blood splattered on the security cameras. The police came, no name was taken, no report, no accountability. And it's not an isolated incident. We've had people that have been 86. They come back with guns in hand, standing a foot off of our sidewalk for hours every single weekend. Every single weekend. Our staff is terrified. We've endured break-ins, vandalism. We've been held up by gunpoint. And it feels like no one is coming. What is going to happen?
Because they're not coming. Because you don't have enough police.
Is this acceptable? We need more trained police officers. We
There you
need
go.
them. Like a ton. We are small business owners. We are the heartbeat of Portland and we are hanging on by a thread. And within weeks, all I see is the coffee shop leaving. Everybody's leaving. I'm like, where are you going? We're leaving Portland. We're out of here. This is seriously life or death for our employees, for our customers, for my family. If my husband or one of our bartenders ends up killed or a customer, who is going to be accountable for this? For the first time, we are seriously talking about leaving Portland, selling the building we own, a legacy we have hoped to pass to our children. But at this point, I don't even know if we could sell it. I mean, nobody can sell commercial property right now. It's ridiculous. This is not politics. This is an emergency. We are out of time. We needed help yesterday. We need help or we are going to die.
We simply don't have enough police. And the private sector, we are spending tons on private security. And if it went away, it's the equivalent to losing almost 200 officers. There is not a thriving region in this country with a dead or dying downtown.
That's kind of all you need to know. Portland, Oregon, desperate need of more cops. But what do they do instead? They prioritize a healthcare program that includes coverage for illegals, for criminal illegals. Coverage for them. Yeah. Wild. Now, I should say right off the bat that this is not a healthcare program for strictly illegals. Anybody that qualifies. But they've taken off the barrier for criminal illegals to participate in this as well. Democrat-led state of Oregon is on track to spend $500 million more on a program that includes free health care for illegal immigrants than on its state police budget, according to reports. Now, you could say, well, Sean, you just played City of Portland Council meeting. But the optics are the same. It's a matter of what Portland and what Oregon is prioritizing versus the reality. And politicians in Portland, they know that they need 1 million more cops, whatever it might be. Seattle knows as well, but they're going to spend money on virtue signaling nonsense. Nonsense, which is a healthcare program that even though we're told Fed money isn't being spent on criminal illegals for healthcare, it actually is because they've taken down the barriers to who can qualify. So that's how you end up in this scenario, right? According to state reports, the Healthier Oregon program, the HOP, not IHOP, but just HOP, has a budget currently of $1.3 billion. The program, which launched in 2022, has seen a rise of 1,100%. 1,100% in cost since it's launched. 1,100% since 2022. Meanwhile, the Oregon State Police have a budget of just over $717 million for all of Oregon. State troopers roaming around. They're getting way less money. That's absolutely insane. Now, what would be interesting is to know, excluding the illegals, how much money does that entail? What's that number look like? But again, it doesn't really matter, because what we're saying is you're spending way less on something that you should probably be spending way more. But when a state like Oregon, when a city like Oregon starts to spend a little bit of money on law enforcement, you get a bunch of the libtards who are like, is this a good use of money? Well, those are the folks that, unfortunately, leadership like that are who the business owners have voted in consistently into Portland, into the state legislature, into the governor's office. And those people are running around saying that Portland and Oregon in general are just fine. No shenanigans here. What could go wrong? It's Portland. Now, you saw from and I've done a million videos on, I just got through doing one on basically Portland's leadership and Oregon's leadership is flat out lying to you about street conditions. And I backed it up with that testimony there. And there was a handful of other business owners basically saying, hey, we're on life support here in downtown Portland. And the vacancy numbers were just incredible. Some of the highest vacancy rate in the United States for a commercial core. And then to further back that up, I wandered around downtown Portland late on a Friday night here a couple of weeks ago after I went and saw the ICE building in the South Waterfront area in Portland, near downtown Portland. It's about a 2-mile walk. And after the shenanigans of the evening with, ICE battling Antifa, saw all that, I walked back to the commercial area that we're talking about here. And like I've said a number of times, when you saw a storefront, you're talking retail, street level storefront, just walking around downtown Portland, when you saw one that was actually looked like it was occupied by a store, that was the surprise moment. Hey, there's one. There's a store. Interesting. Hey, there are actually businesses open in downtown Portland. Shocker, because the vast majority, they're closed. Also had somebody mention that you can't really tell if they're boarded up or if they're boarded up and open for business. They're all kind of one and the same. So many of the buildings have boards on their windows because you've got a bunch of drug addicts. You got a bunch of homeless people. Oftentimes the homeless are addicted to drugs, 70, 80, 90% of the time. And they tend to throw rocks through windows. And you hear about that time and time and time again. And on that clip that we just looked at, towards the end of that, there was another business owner, and I think he was a weed store, and he didn't qualify for the help for the city help because he, affiliated with weed stores, and we don't want to help them. But he indicated, they're getting their windows broken all the time. All the time. So many businesses have gone to that. Well, we're not really sure if they're open or not. I guess we'll try the door. We'll see if there's a light in there. We'll try open that door. Oh, hey, they're open. You can't really tell because they're all just boarded up because you've got so many lunatics running around downtown Portland. The Oregon Health Authority website says, starting July 1st, 2023, immigration and citizenship status no longer affects whether someone qualifies for the Oregon Health Plan. There you go. That's where that number started to take traction. We're going to take off the limitations on who can get funding. New. Oregon is expected to spend more in a program extending health benefits to illegal immigrants than state police by $500 million. So bottom line is, Oregon has the money to spend it on what they want. They're just not prioritizing, small little things, shenanigan things like businesses. They're not prioritizing that. Simply not a priority. Instead, they're prioritizing virtue signaling. Hey, we're going to open it up to the criminal illegals. Should be fine. We're going to open it up to anybody. We're going to just, come on in. Come on in. And it's mind blowing that these are the choices being made, but keep Portland weird, right? That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing that goes throughout Oregon as well. Just keep Portland weird. Okay. And then on a state basis, you've got a bunch of Democrats who believe that what they're doing is right, even though they've got stats in front of them that says, I don't know, guys. And they've got constituents. More importantly, they've got constituents like we heard about talking. And what I would say there is, these businesses are frustrated, but guaranteed these businesses, they didn't vote for Trump. They didn't vote for somebody with an R by their name. They don't appreciate the dude wearing the red MAGA hat, right? They don't appreciate that. They don't vote that direction. So you get what you pay for. That's the bottom line. You get what you pay for. Now, in Oregon, particularly in Portland, you're always going to get that blue influence, right? You're going to get that. And this is part and parcel, spending way more on some other stuff. It's not necessarily required, but not spending enough on what is required. And you heard two people, business owners, in a very short time period, just boom, back to back. Here's what we need. We need way more cops. And they don't care if they're state. They don't care if they are, federal. They don't care if they're local police. But look at how Oregon, look at how the politics are playing out in a city like Portland, where it's gone as far from the governor down to the mayor, to the city council, to the police department. They are not interacting with ICE, which is other law enforcement, to deport criminal illegals from Oregon and from Portland. So when you look at through the scope of what they do prioritize, it's not a shocker that they're spending $500 million more on programs that arguably shouldn't have this amount of money spent, right? And 1,100% since the program's introduction just 4 years ago. That's a massive number. Massive number. Just mind-blowing. Assistant Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, Tricia McLaughlin, blasted the state for its obscenely lopsided budgeting. Absurd. Oregon will spend $500 more, plus more on free health care for immigrants, regardless of legal status, than on police in its current budget period. Period. That's what they're doing. But this is par for the course. And when business owners bitch and complain, you got to look at who they voted for. You got to look at who's in office. And until you are willing to make a commitment to vote for somebody who has public safety, not shenanigans, not virtue signaling shenanigans in mind, but public safety. That's the difference. You got to, put your vote where your priorities are. And this whole virtue signaling nonsense of, million different programs that, just don't really have anything to do with public safety. You get what you pay for. This is how businesses end up closing on the regular, particularly when you have a police department that's not engaged in law enforcement with a federal entity. That's what's going on right now in Portland. Police chief has said, we're not sure what's going on there, but we're not supporting that. This doesn't fit our values. Police chief has basically came right out and said, the values that Portland prioritizes basically means keeping criminal illegals in the city, in the county, in the state. That's what they're prioritizing. Instead of spending more money on cops, instead of spending more money on local law enforcement, or just law enforcement in general, to get the criminals out of their environment. They're a hard no-go. The police, Portland police, hard no-go. They're standoff. They're going to back off. They're just going to let things go because that's the virtue signaling that leadership has dictated in a city like Portland. Oregon is one of the Democratic-dominated states that went all in for free health care programs for illegals during the Biden years. But 3 other deep blue states that made similar moves on health care for migrants have begun pulling back on these promises because the programs are massive budget busters. Huh. Who saw that coming? Let's Go Brandon is one of the dumbest mayors ever elected to office. I mean, that guy, if he's not reading off a card, you're like, did this guy graduate from like elementary school? Honestly, because his criteria, you're doing what for your constituents? Oh, you're doing nothing? You're doing worse than nothing? California, Illinois, and Minnesota all launched massive healthcare giveaways to illegals over the last 4 years, but all 3 are paring back their programs after costs soared tens of millions beyond what was initially proposed. What could go wrong? Shenanigans for years. Budget-busting shenanigans. That's what we've got. That is what these people signed up for, meaning the constituents of these big states. We believe in our leadership. So progressive. So progressive. Minnesota. Hey, let's watch Minneapolis just burn. Same thing in Washington. Let's just give over a multi-block area to Antifa and Black Lives Matter, a domestic terror organization. Let's just give it over to them and we'll tell the police just to take a hike for a while and we'll see what happens. Could be the summer of love. Or 2 black kids could get murdered by Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Oh, not a good ending. Didn't see that one coming. Oof. Right? The Sally Pipes recently wrote in the National Review, cash-strapped California is shoveling $8.5 billion a year to free health care for illegals. Shoveling. Oh, I love that description. Here's another shovelful. Sounds like cow manure, doesn't it? Just, we're going to shovel them another $500 million. Health care for illegals. The program has been so flooded with migrants that actual citizens are finding health care harder to get because wait times have exploded. Build it and they will come. Seek and ye shall find, right? You got that whole deal. The number of homeless in Washington State, Oregon, and California is, per the population, so significantly higher than the rest of the country because they built it. They built their homeless industrial complex, and those folks have come. You build it and they come. You hand out money, they'll come. California has a massive criminal illegal population. That's where they go because they can operate there and they're fine. California, sanctuary state. Los Angeles, sanctuary city. Same exact drill. Policies are the same. All right, yeah, we'll protect you and we'll give you health care. Why wouldn't you go there? Why wouldn't you go there? If they're going to wipe your ass 10 ways from Sunday, go to the state with the most shenanigans as far as this is concerned. Minnesota is also scaling back its Minnesota Care program as the wildly overspent program descends into shortfalls and Governor Tim Walz is making deep cuts. Like, oh, good Lord, we virtue signaled that and we did it and now we're paying for it. Oh, this is awkward. Gonna have to go back and tell them, you know what, folks? We've got a little change in plans. We've got just a scooch. We were going this way. We're going this way. We're going to take a little road turn this way. In other words, yeah, your funding for your free healthcare, gone. And they're going to spin it with something. They'll spin it with something, right? Because you got to keep those optics looking good. Absolutely mind-blowing, right? Here we go. Oregon exposed for spending more on a legal immigrant healthcare program than state police. Now, again, you see how this one is written? More on a legal immigrant healthcare program. It was a healthcare program designed for everybody of need. And that's one of those things. All right, you got to be fair about it because this is news for reasonable people. This isn't news for numbnuts who exaggerate things, right? That's not what we do here. Well, unless it's funny, of course. And then we're going to exaggerate the heck out of it because that's funny. But then we're also going to state, here's reality. Because the truth is always somewhere in the middle. But on this one, it's like, wow, that is a big, big number. 717 million versus our 1.5 billion with a B. And you've got massive budgetary constraints. You've got a huge, huge deficit, and they're spending that kind of money. That's where Chicago, same deal, $1 billion deficit. And let's go Brandon Johnson, the genius who may or may not have graduated from grammar school, from elementary school. I'm completely making that up because the way that he speaks without a prompter, without, flashcards. And he's worse than Biden, right? You can see him working so hard on, what am I saying here? Am I saying the right thing? Does this make any sense at all? I don't even know what I'm talking about. What in the F am I saying? He goes down that road, right? Daily Caller reported the Oregon Health Authority told the outlet that Oregon is currently expected 1.2. Federal government is expected to provide 25% of the funding needed to provide health care benefits to illegal immigrants in the state. So, we were told over and over and over and over again, no federal funds would be spent. Federal money isn't going to be spent on health care for the illegals, right? That's one of the big sticking points in the, governmental shutdown is you want to kick all this money for this ridiculous stuff. And Republicans are saying, no, not in the budget. No, we're not doing that. And Democrats, we need to virtue signal. We need to have health care for everybody, including criminal illegals. These numbers, not a shocker by any stretch of the imagination. It's all about priorities. You don't see Oklahoma spending hundreds of millions, if not over $1 billion for the criminal illegals. It's just not a thing. They prioritize law enforcement. They never defunded the police. They spend money on policing. They actually have policing. They have state police working in conjunction with ICE. What a shocker. Law enforcement working with law enforcement, and nothing is underfunded. You can't necessarily get enough police like in any state because we villainized policing and law enforcement in general during the whole fentanyl Floyd era. Nobody wanted to be a cop. And so jurisdictions all across the United States have had a difficult time hiring law enforcement. Because what a crappy job, right? Everybody hates you. Oh, you're a cop? Oh, do you see what they did to fentanyl Floyd? You see what they did to him? Yeah, and you're like, so we're going to defund the police? Oh, that's geniusness. Kind of like spending $500 million more on stuff that arguably shouldn't be spent on than law enforcement. Yeah. Priorities. All comes down to priorities, right? What's the state you live in? What do they prioritize? They prioritize law enforcement, prioritize police, whether it's state, sheriff, state troopers, local police. You're gonna have better public safety in areas where that is prioritized versus this other virtue signaling nonsense. You get what you pay for. So make that vote count, right? Make that vote count. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.